Good evening. You are welcome to another edition of Import Export Platform Facebook Live from 3Team Pest Trade Academy. And my name is Dele Ayemibo. We continue our conversation on AFCFTA, the what, the why, the how to export to Nigeria or to import into Nigeria. In the morning we started discussing NAFDAC, and we'll continue on that conversation this evening. We started discussing NAFDAC. NAFDAC is with NAFDAC with respect to food item. NAFDAC with respect to food item. So in the morning I discussed documentation. This evening I hope to complete that. Step 1 is documentation. Step 2 is import permit. Step 3 is submission of product. Step 4 is product approval meeting. Step 5 is issuance of notification. What I realized about this process or processes is that the documentation aspect is the most critical, crucial, and important one. Because I discovered that the documentation aspect is so important that it occupies more than 60% of what you need to do. Documentation. 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 The documentation aspect is so important and very crucial because it gives complete information of what we are really about to do, and then makes it easier for anyone and everyone to be able to get that thing done in terms of importation of food item into Nigeria. So anyone that is trying to import food into Nigeria need to understand these processes and follow through on it. Else, you might have issue with your getting that permit to import this item into Nigeria. So what I will do this evening is to recap what I did in the morning on the documentation, then move on to the other part before I close this evening. The documentation started with number 1, you need to provide 2 originals of all these documents and a copy. Sorry, 1 original and 2 copies of these documents that I will be mentioning. 1 original and 2 copies of these documents that I'm going to be reading out. 1 originals and 2 copies of this document I'm going to be reading out. 1 original and 2 copies. Number 1 is notarized declaration. Notarized declaration. Notarized declaration to be signed by the declarant who is declaring that he wants to import this item into Nigeria. Number 2, it needs a power of attorney. Power of attorney. Now that power of attorney is expected to be signed by a senior person like general manager or managing director. The power of attorney also should state the ownership of the brand. The power of attorney should be notarized. Power of attorney should be valid for 5 years. But instead of power of attorney, if what you have is contract of manufacture, it should be notarized. It should be signed by both parties, stating their name and designation in the company. The two companies represented, stating their names and designation in the two companies represented, stating their name and designation. Then there should be a certificate of manufacture and free sales. Manufacturer is certified that this company manufactured this on so date. Free sale is to show that the country where this product is produced allow this product to be sold freely, not to be distributed freely. This certificate of free sale is to be issued by the regulatory agency, like health or other regulatory agency in that country. The certificate of free sale should indicate the name of the manufacturer and the product being registered. And this certificate of free sale must be authenticated by an embassy of Nigeria in that country, or an embassy of an ECOWAS member state in that country, or an embassy of a Commonwealth state in that country. There should also be comprehensive certificate of analysis. This should analyze the product in the lab, stating the brand name and the product's name, the batch number, manufacturing and expiry date, the name and designation. The name, designation, and signature of the person that did the analysis. Evidence of business incorporation of the importing company in Nigeria. Evidence of the registration of this brand name and the trademark with the Ministry of Trade and Investment in Nigeria. Label or artwork of the product, how it will be sold in Nigeria. Letter of invitation to come and check the factory to see the good manufacturing practice of the factory. Manufacturer information, that's the name of the company and the address and the contact detail of the person to be spoken with. Then the agent information locally also. All this on the letterhead of both companies. Now, having done that, let's now move on to the business of the day, or business of this evening rather. The business of the day or business of this evening. Import permit. Step 2. Upon successful screening of documentation, review of supporting document, an import permit shall be issued, after which document will be submitted for vetting. After the product will be submitted for vetting rather. Upon successful screening of documentation, remember documentation include all that we have mentioned. Let me go over it again. Note, a document declaring, a document of declaration, a power of attorney. Number 2. Number 3, a certificate of manufacture, certificate of free sale. Number 4, number 5, certificate of analysis. Number 6, certificate of incorporation. Number 7, evidence of business registration. Certificate of trademark and brand name. Number 8, artwork of the design. Number 9, invitation for GMP. Number 10, manufacturer invitation. Number 11, local agent information. Local agent information. Now, so about 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, about 12 documents plus registration form. Like I said in the morning, I won't blame NAFDAC for this. Reason is this. All these documents have a reason. I can, even though I've not asked them, logically, I can understand why this is necessary. So get your document together. The product is coming from abroad. They need to go and check where it's been produced, be sure the quality is good for consumption in their country. Then, import permit. After screening of the document, review of supporting document, an import permit shall be issued, after which product will be submitted for vetting. Submission of product. After successful vetting of product labels, laboratory sample are submitted. The following documents are included: evidence of payment to agency, certificate of analysis from abroad, evidence of submission for vetting. Then product approval meeting. Upon satisfactory documentation, review, then satisfactory GMP of production facility and satisfactory lab analysis of product are presented for approval meeting. That's when the NAFDAC management or the committee meets. For product label with compliance issue, compliant artwork may be submitted with a commitment letter from the manufacturer stating that the commercial product will be in compliance. So that means if the sample you submitted with Nigeria have issue with label, you will give a commitment that in Nigeria they will relabel it for it to comply with local regulation. For product approved at the meeting, notification of registration or listing is issued to the applicant while compliance directive is issued to those not approved. Compliance directive. So that's the need for you to go back and do requisite compliance. The need for you to go back and do what is outstanding, requisite compliance. All these are extremely necessary in my opinion. Why? Remember, we are dealing with food item. And because we are dealing with food item, you should expect there will be more or stricter procedure expected. When it comes to drug, stricter measure expected. Why? Human lives are involved. Still on step 5. Labeling should be informative, accurate, in conformance with the agency's food labeling regulation and the International Code for Marketing of Breast Milk Substitute regulation and other relevant regulation. So labeling must comply with the regulation, and they will give you a sample so you know how it should be, what should be on it. Note, failure to comply with this requirement may result in disqualification of the application or lead to considerable delay in the processing of registration. A successful application will be issued a certificate of registration with a validity of 5 years. So when NAFDAC said when you are importing food, you need a power of attorney that enable you to have access to this product for at least 5 years, it's because when they also do your registration, they expect the minimum number of years that you will have access to produce that product is how much? 5 solid years. 5 solid years. If it's not up to 5 years, that becomes a challenge. So if you're, anyway, they will even issue it in the first place because they are looking for a minimum of 5 years. And I think this is also good for whoever it is. It's enough time to market. It's enough time to see if you'll be able to have the opportunity to take advantage of the market. It's enough time to be able to take advantage of the market, really, because year one might have a little delay, a little challenge here and there, but with enough time on your hand, it becomes easy for you to be able to really conclude this process and be able to sell this product, and the money you have invested taking a NAFDAC staff abroad will not be a waste. Registration of a product does not automatically confer advertisement permit. A separate application and subsequent approval by agency shall be required if the product is to be advertised. Simultaneous submission of registration and advertising application are allowed. Now, I have issue with this one. NAFDAC, I have issue with this one. I don't know the rationale behind it, but I feel the rigor of the first process should just enable the person to do it together. But the beauty is that they say you can do it together. So please do it together. Note: NAFDAC reserve the right to revoke, suspend, vary a certificate during its validity period. So even though you have been given this license, NAFDAC still have the right to say, you see what? We are not going to allow you to continue with this registration, with this, we can cut it off, cut it short rather. Why? Because if they discover along the line that you are not complying or compliant, that will become a challenge. So NAFDAC will be interested in either revoking your registration, suspending it. Suspending means they can reinstate it, but revoking it, they take it away from you completely. And vary the validity. They can say, no, you are not doing 5 years, you are going to do 4 years. I don't know if they will increase it, but I'm sure they'll probably be able to reduce it, but increasing, I'm not sure. Because you already have a certificate of a power of attorney that gives you 5-year validity. So I'm not sure if they can extend beyond that. But what they said is that they can vary, so they can probably bring it down for whatever reason. Best known to them, rather. Filling an application form or paying an application fee does not confer registration status. So don't say because you have filled the form, you have submitted, you are registered. No! Until you have a notification. Notification. So there will be a letter notifying you, giving you notice. There will be a letter to that effect. Filing an application form or paying an application fee does not confer registration status. Failure to comply promptly to queries or inquiries raised by NAFDAC on the application within 90 days will automatically lead to closure of application. Failure to respond promptly to queries and inquiry. Now, what NAFDAC is saying is that along the line, when you start this process and NAFDAC have concern about your application and write you a letter querying or making an inquiry or seeking clarification, if you do not respond in 90 days, they will close your application. You might need to start all afresh again. They will close your application. You might need to start all afresh again. They will close your application. You might need to start all afresh again. The timeline for product registration from the acceptance of submission to issuance of registration number is 120 working days. Wow! There is 20 working days in a month. Minimum of 20 working days in a month. Because a month has 4 weekends plus 5 working days in a week. So minimum of 20 working days in a month. 20 working days times 6, NAFDAC is saying this process is expected to take a minimum of 6 months. This process is expected to take a minimum of 6 months. Please note that the clock stops once compliance are issued. The clock stops once compliance are issued. All submissions should be made at the Office of the Director, Registration and Regulatory Control, ground floor, NAFDAC office is Solo Industrial Estate, Oshodi Apapa, Lagos, or the nearest NAFDAC office closer to you. I would strongly recommend you take it to Lagos. If you're outside Lagos, please send it to Lagos yourself. Send it to Lagos yourself. You are importing, so just drop the document and have a rep in Lagos to be able to follow up with them. I will recommend that. It's government agency. Drop it in Lagos yourself. Thank you very much for listening again today. I've been able to finish the NAFDAC guideline for food. Tomorrow I'll be talking about NAFDAC guideline for drug. Thank you very much for listening. Bye for now and have a very good evening.